Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Saturday. We got a good show on the docket for us today. We've got Hilary Barta returning for an interview and art sale. And well, I didn't I don't think Hilary Barta and I think Deadpool, but when I think of Hilary, I think of humor in artwork. And so I felt like it was a proper moment to wear this Christmas gift that my daughter Gwen gave me because it's loaded with Deadpool and Wolverine all over it doing funny things. I think Headpool's on this as well. So yeah, this is a first appearance of this, everybody. It's not for sale. Not heck, I don't even know if you can one like it, but it is mine, and I appreciate the gift, Gwen. So let me bring Hillary in here and get this thing started. Hey, Hillary, you didn't get the
Hello,
message
Bill.
where
Hello,
the
everybody.
that you could find, did you?
Pardon me?
You didn't get the memo about the crazy shirt day that I was.
Actually, I have a shirt on that says, let's see, you won't be able to read it, but it says, to each his gnome, and there's a gnome on there. So it's a sort of a holiday themed shirt, but it's under the other shirt.
There we go. That works. That
Yeah.
works. Rick Waltz says hilarious. Oh yeah, that is. Thank you, Rick. Well, welcome back. How was your New Year?
And the New Year was good, very quiet. I noticed there were a lot of people posting about they planned their New Year and someone had made up a ticket about staying at home, like that they were going to some event. I think
Hmm.
a lot of perhaps adults, are doing that now. In Chicago, I was a little worried about the icy streets and stuff, and so we didn't go out, but we did go out for lunch on New Year's Eve. I went to a great Chinese restaurant, my girlfriend and I, and so we had a nice time. And New Year's Day there's an annual event that my neighbors upstairs hold, so all our friends are there. Happy New Year! Um, so we get to see a lot of good friends and have good food. They always make gumbo every year. It's like a
That's
Southern
a
tradition,
tradition.
and you make black-eyed peas, hoppin' john, actually, which is a thing you do for good luck. So hopefully, I'll have good luck in this year.
Wow. You know what?
How about
My mom
yourself?
goes out and beats like pots and pans at midnight for good luck. I have no idea why. Is that
Well,
something they do in Chicago as well?
there were firecrackers going off. You could hear them outside. I was
Okay.
asleep, but somebody woke me up at 2 minutes to midnight to say, "Hey, Happy New Year!" And I'm like, I couldn't go back to sleep because I'm listening to firecrackers.
They texted you to wake you up, right? Yeah, it never
Um,
fails. It's
it
probably a
wasn't
good
a
friend.
text. It was a nudge from next, next to me. My girlfriend was nudging me.
Oh man, well, we had we had definitely had a good New Year here, and in part because I don't know, it's fun to start a new year and kind of like set goals for us, both not only for work but as a family and stuff. So we try to do that every year. While my wife and one of my kids is still up in Ohio, we talked about it before we left. We're like, these are the goals that we have for 2026. So, fingers crossed, some of those things happen, and but life's all about the fun rambling journey that we're on, and and having not chance meetings like these, but getting to hang out with you, Hillary, because we had a lot of fun the first show. I mean, that was the sales were good, the conversation was fun, and uh it's I always go back and do a little bit of research. I'm like, all right, what can we do, talk about with Hillary that we didn't talk about last time? And the funny thing is I always get drawn back to the 80s, which is when you started, of course. But you really, you came in at the most interesting time, to me in comics. I mean, a lot of people would probably say the 90s were cool and all that stuff, but for me, the 80s and the independent movement was like one of the most important things, at least for me as a comic book reader. And you got to be a part of it, right from the very beginning, getting to work on stuff with First Comics. You're to the little American flag stuff. You did some Airboy. You got to work on uh, Willingham with Warp, which is like I think one of his first comic book related works. I mean, what was it like, kind of coming in, starting your career at a moment where there was just so many new things happening that certainly weren't there or a part of your lexicon growing up and reading comic books?
Yeah, I mean, I've always felt like you know, comics is a continuum from the early stuff, way back in the late 30s on. The things that I gravitated towards when I was younger, I mean, I was reading comics. We probably talked about this last time. My older brothers would bring Marvel comics from the 60s. So I still have like an old issue of Hulk and there's Thor and a few other books that I didn't buy myself. I was too young probably to buy them. Later, I was buying Marvels, and I was a total Marvel guy because of that. But when like in high school, I just realized by reading certain magazines that had articles on comics in Europe, I realized there was this whole other world of comics. And I went down the rabbit hole of going to comic stores, and I went back in time. I mean, I really got connected to golden age artists like Jack Cole, Bob Powell, the 1950s EC, and then people like Bernie Wrightson at the time when I was coming up. They were my heroes because they were the bridge back to EC. You know, all the guys working at Warren and doing horror comics. I mean, there were any number of people that were, you know, that came of age a little bit before me, or at least got professional work before me. And so, you know, it made sense to me that there was a whole range of comics. So I actually, the first pro work I had some local work and fanzines and sort of semi-pro things, but Marvel was the first job. And then when I got offered work at First Comics, I thought, oh, I want to go to an independent because it seemed more exciting. Marvel wasn't the exciting place for some reason. Probably the dumbest career move in terms of dollars and cents, but it's part of who I am. I've never really felt like I was one thing. So when I eventually figured, because I was an inker at Marvel, it wasn't until I came back after doing work at First and doing all the inking for all the other companies, you know, Eclipse and other companies where I guess Airboy was Eclipse. Is that right?
You know, I don't recall. I
wasn't sure I can't remember either. Pacific, Eclipse. There's any number of companies then that were sort of a little smaller than First, and you know, I worked all over the place, and that's when I was starting to discover, like at first especially, my own humorous voice. And so there weren't that many places at Marvel to do that. Whatda was one of them, but mostly that was in the independents and even more obscure than the independents, you know, little fanzines or small zines, self-published magazines and things. And it was a cool time. I mean, I don't really know what's going on now equivalent. I think most of the change has been that there's a ton of self-published stuff, but it's usually done via Kickstarter now. It's not so much published and distributed to stores. But I'm sure it's very tough go for a lot of independents now, you know.
Yeah, I mean, some make it, certainly. I mean, there's a few publishers out there that have come into play in the last few years and have seemed to do okay, but it's
Sure.
a market certainly than it was in the mid '80s. They, yes, because of the humor bent. I mean, you know, when you were mentioning titles and creators and whatnot, I thought you might mention a few creators from like Mad or Crazy or, you know, those types of publications. Were you reading any of those things? You know, that you know.
Well, I definitely read I mean, like Mad was a magazine I just read as a child, right? When I can get an issue. I remember the movie Bullet. I never saw the movie, but I read the parody first. So years later, when I saw the movie, I couldn't help but think of the parody as I'm watching it. Like, oh, the famous chase scene, you know, that when they finally leave the city and then they're out on the highway, and the hitman is sort of trying to get a line on Steve McQueen in the other car. The parody of that is hilarious. Mort Drucker drew it, and the driver saying, you know, wait, you know, because he's talking to the guy. The guy's in the passenger, the hitman with a gun is in the passenger seat. Steve McQueen is on the driver's side in the other car, and the driver keeps saying, wait. He said, wait, and then now. And so when the guy finally is shooting the gun, he just blows the head off the driver in his own car. And it was one of the funniest things I read, but I can't help but think of that when I watch this exciting chase scene. I just start laughing, thinking, oh, the Mort Drucker version, you know, was even more exciting and hilarious. So, but yeah, I mean, I loved Mad. It was just like I mentioned, Wrightson being a bridge back to EC. Mad was an EC book, right? It was the last of the EC books. It became a magazine. So through Mad and in Mad were people like Wallace Wood and, you know, other artists that were drawing for Mad back in the 50s. And I love that stuff. And, so Jack Cole in the 40s is probably my favorite artist. In the 50s, it would be Kurtzman and Wood and the other Mad guys, Davis and, you know, John Severin, those people. Will Elder, amazing, you know.
course.
And yeah, Jack Davis. Yeah. I have a good friend, Jim Terry. It's wonderful how these things keep sort of, people keep being re-inspired by older generations. One of Jim Terry's favorite artists is Davis, and he loves Severin. He also loves Will Eisner, and Jim's younger than I am. And these are the guys that his art is inspired by in large part. And it's just, that's cool to see, I mean, it's great when people just do their own thing and they're not sort of connected to the past in a literal or direct line. But I can't help but be that guy. That's a guy. I grew up watching old movies. Once I discovered that there was a history of comics, I went back into that past, and and you can see the connection between Dan Clowes and a lot of the people that do this real independent, whatever you want to call it, the fanographic stuff, all this stuff that's kind of edgier, independent stuff. Well, they're all inspired by Mad too. That was their favorite stuff. Robert Crumb, was a big fan of Kurtzman and Mad.
Right. It's funny. I was looking at some of your, just browsing through stuff that's on CAF and doing some Google searches, and I thought of Crumb and some of the layouts of yours where you're focusing on the characters. I was on your website, and you had that one illustration related to social distancing with the characters, and I'm like, I feel a little Crumb influence, and maybe even in some of the figures and the way they're just exaggerated and fun, but it's the focus on that and like less on the background and whatnot. And I feel like that there's a little bit of that in there in some of the work that you do.
Yeah, well, back in the 70s, before I was working in comics, obviously, I was pretty young. When we were probably in junior high school, I discovered Underground Comics by walking to what was called a head shop back then. Wasn't in our neighborhood, but you walk to the edge of Chicago, and there was this head shop in a rather sketchy neighborhood. And, you could buy the blacklight posters and drug paraphernalia and all that. I wasn't interested in that stuff, but then there were these comics. And reading Zap comics as a young lad was, a young Catholic person without too much experience in the world, it was mind-blowing in a lot of ways. It pretty much violated every taboo that existed. And so through Crumb and the Undergrounds, I definitely realized there is more to comics than the comics I grew up with. You could do anything you wanted. I never really wanted to do autobiographical stuff. I didn't really feel inspired that way. But I never felt like I was strictly a Marvel DC action adventure guy either. So I had to kind of find my place,
Sure. I mean, when you're talking with editors and getting into the business, I mean, do you have conversations like that with them? With where you say, I'm not really into capes and spandex. I'm trying to, these are the areas I want to go. Or early on, did it not matter, for you?
Well, I mean, early on, I was just happy to get work in comics, and it was fun to be an inker, and all of that stuff was action adventure, right? All of that stuff was superheroes. Because the very first comic I inked was Don Perlin on the Defenders, and there was some. J.M. DeMatteis was writing that. And you can correct my pronunciation of his name, but there you go.
I don't think this was from the first one, but I think this is like issue 115. I think
that is probably from the very first full issue they gave me, because I did 2 pages as a tryout on the Defenders, so they were actually published, my tryout pages, and they're pretty sketchy. But by the time I got the first issue, I was going to throw everything in the kitchen sink in there. So there's Zipatone and Perlin stuff is tight, and all I was doing is enhancing the lighting and stuff, trying to throw all the Wally Wood tricks in there. That particular page, if you have time, I could tell you a story. Because I was working at Marvel, I had been appearing at this local Chicago Comic-Con, no longer that. It became Wizard, and it's something else now. But back then it was Chicago Comic-Con, and they let fan artists sit at tables, and we all got in for free. It was wonderful. Well, by the time I got the Marvel work, and I got it at the Chicago show by showing my work to Al Milgram, who was editing, I then got, I got my foot in the door. Perlin looks, oh, cool. And anyway,
that's a compliment. I mean, and it's true. Perlin, some of Perlin's stuff, on Defenders, I mean, this is really nice compared to some of the other.
Well,
pieces.
I mean, I was trying to prove myself now, but the story I want to tell is, so I'll try to make this as quick as I can. I go back to the convention the next year, and I've now had my work published in Marvel. Jim Shooter was a guest. Jim Shooter was the editor-in-chief at the time. He's sitting at a table, and he's got a bunch of fans around him, and I just, for some reason, because I was so excited and proud and whatever, happy to be now a published Marvel artist, I brought my work up and I said, Mr. Shooter, I introduced myself, and would you take a look at these? I actually am working for you now. And he's like, well, he takes the pages and he takes this one page and he holds it up upside down. And he's holding it in front of all the people, all these kids, there, all these fans standing around. Anyway, he says, see this? This is wallpaper. And this was the beginning of the end of my sort of fanish time at Marvel. Now I was suddenly like realizing, oh, this isn't just going to be a cakewalk here. And Jim Shooter had eventually these were published as the Shooter Rules. I don't want to, maybe I told the story before. I don't want to make it too long. But his whole idea was you don't put black on all of the planes, foreground, middle ground, background. If you're going to put black on the figures in the foreground, you would then just draw open line backgrounds, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And my perspective still to this day is, well, then tell the pencilers that, if you have people inking it, don't have them pencil black on every pan. But I'm going to ink what the guy, if a penciler puts the thought into it and designs the page one way, I'm going to ink that page. I'm going to add myself and my work to it, but I'm not going to fundamentally rethink what the penciler did. That's not my job. And it's offensive to the artist who started the page. So it was a weird moment. I was embarrassing and I just was like walked away kind of stunned, but it didn't stop me from working at Marvel. He didn't, it wasn't like he was firing me or anything, but he was just using this as an example.
Sure.
It didn't make me fond of the man.
It wasn't bashful from everything I've heard over the years.
It was a pretty harsh, if he was trying to teach me a lesson about good comics, that was about the roughest way you could do it. So anyway, that's ancient history. Yeah.
Let's see. I saw a #1 Marvel fan mention working with John Byrne on The Thing as a first work. Must have been awesome.
Yeah, that was the first regular comic. This would be the first issue I inked. Full issue. And then The Thing, they offered The Thing to me. That was the first book where I was going to ink every issue. So I worked on that. I don't know if it was for a year or so. And, that's when I was just excited to be doing Marvel Comics. And, and in both Perlin and Wilson, they just looked like Marvel Comics. There was a certain sort of older style going on there, I think. Perlin himself was older. But it really looked like Marvel Comics, and it was fun. Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing yet, that's for sure. I hadn't found my way, but I was learning on the job.
Well, that's you got to start somewhere. So, I mean, with the opportunity to work with, like you just said, Wilson and Perlin both being very kind of house style artists. Was a good place to kind of get started. But it's certainly in contrast to working with Tim Truman or Bill Willingham or some of the other artists that you might have gotten to work on and more of the independent titles.
Yeah, it was definitely, like you say, a house style or traditional, but it did feel like the comics, a little more like the comics I grew up with. Don Perlin and a number of guys, Wilson even, they could have been drawing in the 60s, Perlin was. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Let me, I did actually pull up a couple what the pages here, because like this one had Severin inks. If I'm not how interesting was that to get to work with, to see your work inked by Severin?
It was amazing. And this is really one of the highlights for me. This is, I went to First Comics, and really that's when I started writing and drawing. The first things I wrote, I think, were backups for Grimjack, the Munden's Bar backup feature. And that's where I kind of, was doing humor for the first time, really. And coming back to Marvel and I think I came back and was inking, but I was inking a cover of the Punisher, and I realized I didn't want to ink the Punisher. I didn't particularly like that Marvel was doing this soldier of fortune guy who was just shooting people. And I told Carl Potts, the editor, who gave me a lot of work at Marvel, was a good friend. I said, Carl, I really don't offer me any more Punisher work, but if you're ever doing the parodies, I would love to do a parody of this. So when Carl was in on the beginning of he said, Hilary, would you like to do a story for What the? I said yes, and I had the story, brought in Peter Gillis to write the script, and then I was penciling it, and Carl said, well, good news and bad news is you're not inking the story. And he said, the good news though is that you have choice between Kevin Nolan and John Severin to ink it. And I love Kevin Nolan, and we're friends also, but how I could work with John Severin on a mad style parody, what could be, greater. So it was really wonderful. And I got to talk to him on the phone and thank him for doing the job. And he was as gracious as you could be. He said, oh, you did all the work, kid, that kind of thing. It was really wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, that had to have been special. I mean, to get but so you didn't get to meet in person, but you had the opportunity to talk with him a little bit on the phone. And
right, and I did this on Do-A-Shade. If I don't know if your audience knows.
Oh yeah, even harder.
Yeah, it's a treated board, so the board has this printed silk screened line work on it that will only appear. It's brown. Maybe you can tell in the original, and there's 2 different shades, hence Do-A-Shade. But you bring it out with chemicals. So he couldn't give this job to just anybody because they had to have the chemicals. Well, Severin had been doing Do-A-Shade for years, first in, Mad, I suppose, but then later for many years in Cracked and at Warren and other places. So it was like, it was just something. I mean, Carl knew what he was doing. He knew I would love having John Severin in. So.
Exactly. I've heard nothing but great things about Carl Potts, as far as, helping creators along, getting them work, being, a great advocate for young talent and new talent in the business, and definitely a head for being, working in at that level, with Marvel.
I remember having a lunch in New York with I was there with Carl and other artists that he was nurturing or mentoring at Marvel. These are people just getting their start in the business. Well, Mark Nelson was there, who was a good friend of mine. Mark he inked he was my first inker really when I was doing Star Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
Also at that table was somebody you might have heard of named Jim Lee, who was, Carl brought him in, and I don't forget what his very first work was, but he was eventually doing the Punisher, and Carl was just that guy. He just really liked helping out artists and giving them a start and kind of sometimes nudging them in the right direction. He'd always be sending me stacks of Xeroxes of artists that he thought would inspire me and get me to loosen up, because when I started, I was pretty tight.
Well, that's good. Hey, and I know we're going to be doing an art sale. I decided I should probably put a preview link in the chat there for those who want to see like some of the scans of the pieces that we have available today before we get to it. I did put the link in a couple of the mailings I sent out as well. But hey, it's always good to give everything another look over before we do the sale. But while going through CAF, it was, there's some things that I knew you'd worked on, and then other things and other creators that I was kind of surprised that you had gotten the opportunity to work with. And let's see, I know I opened up a couple tabs here, but let me add this back to the stage. So, this is like for a New Mutants, DPS with Rob Liefeld in 1990. And you're definitely were true to Rob's pencils. I mean, that's it feels like you were mentioning earlier about sticking to to the penciler's intent, and what was it like getting to work on something like this, a big title that was just getting the 90s were just getting started, and then you work something like this.
Well, it was I had been learning on the job, like I said, at Marvel. And when I first started at Marvel, I switched from using a brush, which I was using. This isn't wallpaper. In any case, I mean, I know Rob has a lot of fans, and this is easily the most popular artwork I ever, had a hand in. Right? I mean, I know this stuff is like the prices it sells for. I see the prices, and I go, I wish I had hung on to some originals, but there you go. All right. This was such a radical turn from where I've been pushing myself back into using a brush, because I used a brush before I worked at Marvel, but starting on seeing these pages in front of me, Don Perlin and Ron Wilson, I was a little terrified of using a brush. I thought I'd have more control with a pen. And it was really a mistake, because I didn't develop the pen earlier. And the pen for me is the natural tool for what I do. So by the time I got this came around when I was offered this book and I saw Rob's pencils, suddenly I'm like, oh, you really have to ink a lot of this with a pen. But I was pushing myself in a different direction. So I don't know that we were the best fit. I've heard people say they really like the way I ink him. There's other people that weren't crazy about it. I know Rob probably would have preferred to have a full-on pen inker inking, because that's the way he thinks, right? But, it was like anything else. It was a learning experience. And I don't understand all the things that the image style, and Rob's just one of those guys, but the cross-hatching and the noodling is not my thing. Like it seemed like they would take every opportunity to take a shadow from black and make it into line work. And that's not my instinct when it comes to comics. I'm more a fan of the full solid black and stronger graphic kind of approach. It's just, but it was incredibly popular. I mean, this stuff is just, yeah. And actually, I decided after a while, because I don't think Rob was crazy about what I was doing. I just decided that I probably should do something else, and I left the book on my own. I just, again, one of the dumbest things I've ever done in terms of financial reward. I wasn't thinking about it then. I had no idea what the art would be worth someday, but it was more like I didn't think we were the best fit. So I was moving along, and also I wanted to write my own stuff too. But yeah, right. There's probably more people bring up this era of Marvel. Mark Silvestri, when I inked his stuff, and I think we were a little more compatible artistically, Mark and I, and Rob. Yeah, there's Mark. That just fit, that just fit the brush stuff that I was doing better than Rob. But this is the stuff that people bring up for me to sign more than anything, is the work as an inker during this era. It was definitely the most commercial and popular stuff I've ever worked on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you're talking about, lush blacks, spotted blacks, and you have that piece behind you that we briefly talked about before we started the show today, but can you tell people, you have a few pieces in your own personal collection?
Well, I kind of put this here. This is like a setup, right? But I put this here for the show because this is the kind of stuff that inspires me. This is Alex Toth from the 1950s, and he didn't ink it himself. I'm not completely sure. Some people have told me, who might be a couple different guys. But it's just beautiful graphic work, and the use of the shadows. These panels, I had bought the whole story, and I only kept a couple of the pages, but I wanted to keep these pages, this page in particular, because of these panels with the car, these rolling hills by the sea. Just, I don't know if you can. Maybe I can actually move this and give you a close up.
Oh yeah, that's
so gorgeous. That bottom panel and the last two panels are really cool. So anyway, for me, the coolest thing about it came from the tradition of comics being printed on, newsprint, and the color being not the kind of modern saturated computer color. You needed that black to hold the pages together. You needed something. Just simple line work wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have jumped off the page the same. So
right.
Anyway, but yeah, I love that stuff. I mean, I love horror comics from the 50s. I really do. Yeah.
Well, there's not enough out there. Certainly not enough by Toth, that's for sure. But every time a piece like that pops up on CAF, we feature a lot of those just because they're so unique and the storytelling is so well done, and it's just a different era of creator, and Toth is one of those artists that for as many pieces that you get to see from that 50s early 60s period from him, you can never look at enough, because it's just so gorgeous. Doesn't matter what kind of story he's trying to tell. He's just a master of moving you from panel to panel, and like you just said there, holding a page together. It really is about having the whole page work really well visually. It's not just individual panel to panel type storytelling. Those are the pages I think that attract us as art collectors, are the ones that just visually has an impact. It's not just sometimes it could be that one panel where it's the first time the character wore a costume or something like that. But overall, you want to look at it as an overall piece of art. And Toth certainly.
I mean, I think his focus in many ways was design, right? Which is kind of what you're talking about, but also graphically simplifying it to give just enough information, but not more than you need to understand, the panel, the action, and it just to get the perfect gesture of line. Sometimes I find his stuff, it's actually difficult to understand what's going on, because he would really experiment with a lot of black and a lot of silhouetting of figures. And so you get I think there's, would often be emotional distance. You're not as involved in the drama of the characters because of that graphics being so extreme, at least extreme by comic book standards. But it's just so beautifully designed. I mean, he's one of the most influential artists out there, and artist, really. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I'll only make you look at one other piece of art. And this is one that I picked up actually at Heritage. So I've been waiting to ask you about the origin of this piece.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. This is
wow.
You and Dennis Kitchen doing I don't know what, but why?
Well, so okay, I had done. Dennis used to have this kitchen sink press up in Wisconsin, so I did a few things with Dennis. I worked on Grateful Dead comics when they were doing that. I did a story for that, but I also did some card art. They did like a UFO card set, and I did like one card. And so a few years ago, Dennis, I hadn't talked to him or seen him in many years. He was trying to get in touch with me online. He wasn't on Facebook, wherever, but his wife found me on Instagram or something. And then the two of us got together with emails. And he said, Hilary, somebody wants to use our card art from the UFO thing because they're doing a UFO movie. And they wanted to use all this stuff in pop culture about UFO. So long story short, we were in contact. And I said, hey, while we're doing this, do you want to do some jams? I love doing these things where I pass a drawing to you, and then, with half of it done, and then you can add the other half. So we did two of them. And I said, we do two, you can keep one and I can keep the other one. So this is one of those two jams. I didn't know he sold it. He obviously put it up for sale. But
it was at Heritage. Yeah, I think it must have been part of the, because he had that I guess
he had
that one sale like 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, he had a big sale of a lot of stuff. I didn't know this was part of it.
Well, there you go. So I got one of two.
There you go.
And you've got the other one still, right?
I've got the other one. Oh yeah, I'm not giving the other one up. I don't know where the heck it is. But so I drew the figure on the right, and since I drew them first, I sent this to Dennis, and he finished it. And he put his alien guy on the left. Don't shoot! It was an accident. So.
Well, I'll tell you, if you ever do part with that other piece, you know who needs to have it, because then I'll have both of them.
Well, okay. Okay, so you don't just collect Marvel, you also like
No. I love the history of comics. There were some pieces in Dennis's auction that I bid on. I wanted to get like the drawing of the barn, that they used in the logo with the kitchen press on it. I mean, I love historical stuff from that period. And so yeah, no. When I saw this, I mean, it's like I love Hilary's work. I've loved Dennis's work, and here I get a piece with both of them on it. I mean, what more can you ask for?
Bill, the best comic show I ever saw was at the Milwaukee Art Museum, and Dennis had curated it. And I went up there, and it was the history of comics from comic strips all the way up to the modern era and undergrounds. It touched on, mainstream stuff with Jack Kirby and others at Marvel, but it was fascinating because the originals were there from comic strips, and we're talking about from the early 1900s comic
Mhm.
strips, right? And newspaper pages as well. But then they had like a full story by Crumb, one of his blues stories. It was just the range of art and the just amazing artists they had there. It was just so good. And I've seen a number of comic shows since at art museums. None of them as inspiring as that one. It was just
What year was that?
when?
Yeah.
Oh
Do you know
gosh,
around
I'm terrible with dates. So I my guess would be this could be in the 90s,
Okay.
but so 20 or more years ago, at
Sure.
least.
Late 90s.
I'm not sure. Yeah, probably 30 something years ago.
Oh, I'll Google it. It's there's got to be some reference out there if Dennis was the curator on it that
I don't know if they did a program book because I never got one. That would
okay,
have been something to have. Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I mean at that point in time, the narrative arts comics, comic strips weren't really treated in that way. Even in the mid to late 90s. So that's really cool that you got to do that. I'm jealous. I would have loved to have seen that show.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I went up there to see it. Right, I'd heard about it. They've since had a show. I mean, obviously they have shows more often now like that. They had one at the MCA here, the Museum of Contemporary Art,
Mhm.
and it was focused on Chicago comics, but it excluded anyone that worked in what you would call mainstream stuff. So the guy Chris Ware put it together. I believe he was, if not the curator, he had a say in who was in it. So he and Dan Clowes were in there. Dan used to live in Chicago, and other guys, Ivan Brunetti, other people that would be from that era, and so very few things. They had some stuff from comic strips from artists I wasn't terribly familiar with. Grass Green might have been in there, but excluded, like say Alex Ross and other people that if you were doing something and you were including mainstream, you were like, well, these guys live in Chicago. And one of the, but no, they weren't going to put me or anybody else working at Marvel in there. But it was a really interesting show. And there was great stuff in it, but it wasn't quite the historical. It had a rather narrow perspective. It didn't upset me. I mean, I understand that perspective is there, right? There's a lot of people that see comics one way or the other. Either you're doing this stuff, this avant-garde or non-mainstream kind of work, or you're going to be a storyteller doing action adventure. And I've always liked what I like in any of these genres or fields. And I have friends in all these camps, if you would. So I never really, it's not like taking sides to me. It's either good or it isn't, right? So,
Sure.
Anyway, I don't want to get on a soapbox or anything.
No. Well, let's let's do the art sale. Want to dive into the
Sure,
pieces we have?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know we're not gonna forget. We're gonna talk about what you're currently working on too, but we can kind of end the show with that.
We can do that if you want. Yeah.
Okay. But all right, well, I let everybody know, and actually, most of the art is not with me yet, but it will be by late next week. Hilary and we didn't want to ship anything during the holidays, and we felt like it would be better to wait till after the new year to put stuff.
It's all here though. I do have it. I've got this is Plastic Man. There's a whole stack of stuff. It's like I could reach out and touch it.
Exactly. So if anybody wanted to, see anything in person and believe that it's still there, exactly. It's in Hilary's hand. I think I have 9 or 10 pieces here from, we have some pieces that we didn't sell in the last show that we reduced the prices on. I think 4 or 5 of those. And then you had sent me so much the last time that we had set some aside. So I have some of the pieces that you sent me back in the summer that we didn't get to look at the last time. So here, why don't I go ahead and just review the usual stuff here for those of you who are familiar with doing claim sales on the channel. If you claim any artwork today, and I think we've got 31 lots to look at. You'll be emailing us after the show. Sales@comicartfans.com is the email address to use. And we like to have payment within 48 hours. And if you have to use PayPal, there will be a service fee, but Zelle or Venmo come without fees, and we prefer those. And a few of the pieces are a little pricey. If somebody needed to do a couple payments on it, we can certainly work out time payments with you. And my next slide is going to talk about shipping. I was also going to mention that if you're going to OAX in less than 7 weeks, I could probably hand deliver it there as well. So, and you could avoid the shipping fees. If you're in the U.S., domestic shipping is $35. International shipping is $70. And like you just saw, Hilary's got a lot of the art in hand, but that art will be mailed to me, and I'll be shipping everything out from here. We ship everything in Masonite, so very very good packaging. I think we have the most reused packaging in the business, as far as I've seen. I've gotten more of my own packaging back from other collectors when I've picked up something from them than any other I don't know. Mailer that the USPS puts together, but yeah, so we'll be looking for payments after the show, but be happy to talk to you, anybody, about time payments if you need it. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, we're going to do a claim show. The main thing to remember is right now is click the live button if you're on YouTube. And I think for some reason, Facebook has been giving us problems, so we're not streaming to Facebook right now, so we don't have to worry about that. But right below my name in the lower left-hand corner, YouTube is a live button. For those of you who can see that, I know on mobile or on your phone sometimes it's a little hidden, but click live and do it a couple times while we're doing the sale, because that'll keep you as current as possible to everybody else in the chat. And outside of that, every lot is named and numbered, and you just need to say claim and the lot number. I did have to make like a 8.5 because I missed one of the Star Slayer pages, Hilary. I went through it and I'm like, I'm missing one. So actually there's 32 pieces in this today because I did do that. I have an 8.5 lot number in the set.
Well, if you missed any page and you don't have a scan or something ready, I'll go grab the original and just hold it up.
Well, I got the scans. I went through it and I'm like, there's 32 images in this folder and I've only got 31 slides. What did I do wrong? So I had to go back. I already made them 1 through 31, and I'm like, oh shoot, this one's right in the middle. So we got an 8.5 in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, all right. So let's just dive into this right now. You actually were just showing the first piece we're going to show is just that SpongeBob piece for lot number 1. It's on 9 by 12. I don't know if it had a size on it, but I assumed it was 9 by 12.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be 12 by 9.
12 by, okay, yes.
But I use these when I do my sketches and commissions that aren't, when people don't ask for 11 by 17. I usually do them on a smaller page for a simple image. So I have these pads of Bristol. So yeah, it's a 12 by 9. I believe the other small piece, the Frink piece, is the same thing. And I believe this was done in 2019. It's under my signature there. Yeah, it's when I was working on SpongeBob, and it was kind of fun being at conventions during that time because I hadn't worked on anything. I mean, I guess I did the humor stuff, but this really was a comic aimed at children. And so, kids would come up and I'd have the SpongeBob artwork. I would have the comic book. And if I did the blue lines, I would have pencils, inks, and the finished book. So I could show kids at the table, fans of SpongeBob, the step that I took. I'd say I use a pencil like this, and it's not a fancy art pencil; it's a yellow pencil, and then I ink it with a pen and brush, and then it gets colored, and then it turns into comic. And the kids who were into it, their mouths would fall open, their eyes would get wide, and it was just, you felt like you were an ambassador to comics, sort of
Sure.
showing kids how they were made. And I knew that if I was a kid and interested in drawing, it would have been cool to see an artist working too. I would also I would do a sketch, and they would often, kids would want to come around and add to the sketch, as children will do. That was pretty entertaining as well. Yeah.
No, it's SpongeBob is universally accepted as one of the I think most popular characters of the last 25 years. I've watched more SpongeBob, I think, than any other cartoon with the kids, in that time frame. Maybe there's some Pokemon stuff. I guess maybe we've watched that a little bit more, but SpongeBob would be a close tie to that one in terms of popularity with the young ones. I mean, there's a movie out right now too, or
There
coming out.
is. That's right. There's a movie out. Yeah.
All right. So next up, we have lot number 2, and this is what we were just talking about, Airboy, right? And so this is Ben Dunn pencils. It's on issue 11. I think we got a couple pages from this issue of Airboy, and I saw somebody confirmed earlier that it was Eclipse.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that I don't trust my memory and everything, and often you do these jobs. This would have been a one-off. Thank you, Sam. And
I'll do it too. Yeah, but yeah. So this is late 80s. No, yeah, late 80s, right?
well, again, you start asking me about years.
I think it was around 88.
I'll say yes. It sounds about right. If it wasn't this century, it was the previous one. That's about as close as I can get.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if this was written by Chuck Dixon. I remember he did Airboy, but he might have done Airboy later. I don't know if he wrote this series as well. Yeah.
I didn't end up going back to read this one. I didn't have a chance. Looked at a couple other.
And I haven't seen the comic. I don't even know if I ever got the comic. I probably got a comic, but I haven't seen it in decades. So I wish I could remember. But I do think we have a couple of pages in sequence here, and then a third one.
I did hold one back when I was pulling these together, but I think I did do a sequence. This
might even be an origin thing with him, because you see him building the ship or working on it here.
Right.
The plane. Birdie, is that the name of the plane? But yeah, so possibly an origin story.
And this I switched over to lot 3. I think I might have skipped one. I mean, I did leave one out. You'll remember I was trying to do variety.
That's okay.
Then you would send me 3 scans.
That's all right. Yeah. If we don't have, I mean, people were asking me, could you tell us what pages are going to be in the sale? And I said, well, I'll give you a list and say most of these pages will, but most of them will be in the sale, but Bill's making the final cut. So anyway, yeah.
All right. Well, this is lot 3, and it's 175 again. Ben Dunn pencils. I got a few penciled pages from Dunn from that era. I can't remember what titles they were though.
You can tell who the bad guy is here, because he's rather heavy, and he smokes a cigar, and he's kind of like smiling maniacally. Probably a businessman or something. Yeah.
Never trust a guy with a cigar.
Don't trust a guy. Well, not who's looking like that. Yeah.
Yeah. No zip on this one, Marcus. You're right.
Yeah. There were a lot of lines indicating the textures of the wooden walls and the stone. There's like some tunnels or I don't know if this is a castle or something like that, but there's stone structure. So yeah, he indicated line work, and so I followed through on that as best I could. There's a lot of line in here. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely in that one panel. That's why I wanted to focus on it. I thought you put a lot of time in that one panel.
Yeah, and knowing me, it's like you see like what is this? The cone, the nose of the plane. You see there's these shine effects. I try to do that without using whiteout, which is, you have these tapered lines, and when they're tapered at both ends and they're going from a white space to a white space, as opposed to just feathering in or out of a black area, that's one of the tougher things to do and make it look clean and have it like go all across in an even fashion. And it was I think it worked there pretty well. But I was trying to get that shiny look. But Ben's stuff is, as I recall, is pretty tight. I mean, you look at me inking artists, it changes. The look changes dramatically from artist to artist because I'm following them. I'm not just laying on, like pouring the maple syrup that is Hilary Barta over those pencils. I'm really trying to sort of figure out what they want to do and trying to, ink them to the best of my ability that way.
Mm-hmm. The maple syrup that is Hilary Barta. That's the quote. We're gonna everybody write that one down.
Maybe I could come out with a brand that I could sell it to. Barta brand maple syrup.
Exactly. This is lot 4 from the web. I think we had this one last time, but we have reduced the price on this one. It's $175 now. Roger Robinson pencils and your inks from issue 1.
And so I would say Roger, who's really talented. He's another guy that works in that graphic. He's not doing all the rendering say that Rob or someone would be doing. And he's working more graphically. So I would say he's probably inspired by Toth and other artists, if not directly. I've never talked to him about, his favorite artists or anything, but he's definitely looking for that graphic approach.
Mhm.
He's really into the design of his pages. Yeah. It's a stretch for me. It's trying to, and this is later on. So this is definitely 2000s sometime. It's when I came back to doing some inking after doing my own work for a while. And, Roger was not, again, I was not the best guy for him because that's not the way it worked. And we were talking, we'd talk on the phone all the time. And I finally, he would show me, he would do like, take a marker and work up the pencils to show me what he wanted. And I just said, Roger, you're kind of telling me you'd like to ink this. Do you have time to ink it? And he said, yeah, I think I could. And so I talked to the editor and I said, I think Roger would want to ink this himself. Why don't you let him do it? And she's like, I've never heard an artist turning, like leaving a job. Like, why would you do that? And I go, well, I think Roger wants to do it himself. It's like,
Hilary, you're talking yourself out of work, man.
Yeah, well, but
not the first time either, right? So
no, but again, it's like you want the artist to be happy, and if a penciler, Roger was not, telling me he didn't like what I did, but he clearly had an idea of a vision of what this should look like, and I probably wasn't the right guy, so it made sense for him to do it himself. It just made sense, and everybody was happy. The editor was the only one kind of going, "What's going on here?"
is there something that you're not telling me? And it was as simple as that.
Yeah, no, we just talked it over, and I got a sense that he wanted, he would like to do it himself. And again, not everybody is pushy, might not be the right word, but not everybody is like that in comics. Where if there's, if they have an inker, they're not going to go, "Hey, I really would like to get somebody else on this." Some people just do their job and they're professional, and Roger's a really nice guy, and it's just through our talking, through the conversations, it kind of made sense. I did a handful of issues. I never felt completely comfortable either, and he probably never felt I was giving him exactly what his pencils should have. So it just made sense. And to me, that's a natural thing,
Mhm. Well, comics are collaboration, so you learn while you work together. But next piece is the one and only piece that we have that is blue lines. So I'll let everybody know that before we show it, and then we can pull this one up here, lot 6. And this is from the Spirit, right? Issue 25, page 7. And this is a more recent piece, I think.
This is when DC was doing the Spirit, and I don't know if it was written by Mark Evanier and Sergio Aragonis. I'm not. I think they might have been teaming up as writers then.
Mhm.
He just had this really clean style. He lives in Brazil. I assumed he lived in Brazil then. That's why he would send his pages in digitally. And so I got the scans, and then a friend of mine was able to print them out for me as blue lines. So they are inked over blue lines, yeah. And we do have a bunch of these pages. They're really nice. Like I said, it's really clean, really tight art. I think he worked in animation here in the States for a while.
Mhm.
And then when that was over, he went back to Brazil. I was just reading about him actually because I was looking up his stuff online, and that's what I was reading. So take that with a grain of salt. I read it on the internet, but
well, you have a Wikipedia page too, and so you never know what I'm trying to remember. No, actually, I copied it. On your Wikipedia page, it says his work has a distinctive cartoon-like feel, erring on the surreal and exaggerated side more than the often realistic work found in other superhero comics. That's on your own Wikipedia. You didn't write that, did you?
Well, technically, Wikipedia does not allow you to write your own.
I know. That's why I was.
So I have no idea who wrote it, actually. Now, I've wanted to update it because I didn't really find any errors in it when I read it years ago, but it hasn't been updated. So I thought I'd maybe have a friend try to update it for me and just add some newer work. But no, I was kind of impressed that they, someone actually took the time to do it and to write something that sounded reasonably accurate in terms of pigeonholing my sort of sensibility.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
not everybody gets to have a Wikipedia page, Hillary. So that means you made it.
If I had written it, it probably would have been Barta's maple syrup is poured over pencils.
Hmm.
Hmm.
All right. Well, we're moving to a different era here with lot number 7. We're going to take a look at some Star Slayer pages. I think we've got 3 of these in a row. That's why the 8.5 will end up being the last one. So this is from issue 22, page 14, and and I know that like these were, this is kind of later in the book, so it's Tim Truman layouts a bit. You had a heavy influence. Nelson, didn't Mark Nelson work on some of these later issues of Star
Well,
Slayer
yeah,
as well?
there was a process. So Tim was the penciler after whenever after Grell, and Tim was doing this and Grimjack, and I guess didn't want to do Star Slayer, didn't have time.
Hmm.
First brought me in, and what they wanted to do is soften the blow to Tim's fans. So Tim was phased out as I was phased in. So I started inking his pencils, and I doubt Tim would have penciled that tightly for himself, but I started inking his pencils, and then I got his loose pencils, breakdowns, whatever you call it, and then layouts. Eventually, those layouts were literally almost circles and stick figures and stuff because he was just blocking in panels.
Hmm.
And so I did more and more. By the time I was doing the full pencils myself, I was running behind and first said, you got to get an inker. And that's when Mark Nelson came into ink. I actually found him. I was looking for somebody that I like working with that would be compatible. So that's how Mark came in. These are all Tim and myself. So I would say these are closer to pencils. This is the earlier on in that transition.
Sure.
So you got a little bit of both here. But this is early, very early for me because this is right after I left Marvel. So I'm still inking a lot of the stuff with a pen. That would not be the case a few years later. So, but yeah, this is Tim's, a lot of Tim in here. Yeah.
Well, Rick Welch has claimed lot number 8. Thank you very much, Rick Welch.
Yeah. Thanks, Rick.
Rick is is a Truman fan for sure. If you end up in his calf gallery, you'll see a lot of Truman work. I'm very envious because I like Truman's work as well. This is a great piece, and as Marcus just shouted, triple vertical splash. They were the rage back then. I mean, McFarlane was he made them very popular in the later, but no, I thought this was great. I love the first one where you just kind of zoned in on his face so much that you almost don't even see the one eye. But yeah, this is a great one.
Tim did a lot with like vertical and horizontal narrow panels. I seem to remember a lot of that. Really good storyteller, very distinct style and everything. In any case, thanks. And I do believe that Rick is somebody I talked to. I'm maybe on the calf page and stuff, but I don't know if he bought stuff directly from me before, but yeah, I definitely know Rick.
Yeah, Marcus points out that it's almost like an absolute Batman tribute. Yeah, with that axe, it does feel like that. It has that kind of vibe. But it won't be the first time I'm going to say that because there's some Mannion work where you kind of get the same vibe going on here. But hey, next lot is 8.5, everybody, because I was I didn't manage things very well. This is from issue 24, page 15, and it's $175.
So this is later, and this
later,
might be Tim Truman pencils, but it's or whatever layouts pencils. But Mark Nelson is now the inker, I believe. So yes, I mean it's pretty clear. I'm looking at it. I haven't seen this page in a while. I don't know if I sent this to you back for the previous sale. So, but yeah, that's Mark Nelson inking.
Yeah, I think I have this one here. Actually, this is one of the Star Slayer pages, and you do actually, when you sent me the file, it had Mark Nelson noted in the file name too.
And this, and this you can, if you look here, you have the guys in the lower right hand panel. This is it takes place in the Far East somewhere on whatever planet it takes place, and I don't know if they go back in time because Star Slayer is a book. I can't remember all of the stuff that went on in it, but it's a nod. The writer John Ostrander and Tim were paying homage to Terry and the Pirates and Milton Caniff. So it's got that action adventure stuff in the Far East, like Terry would have on the old Terry comic strip.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's 8.5. Lot 9, totally different piece. We have the Professor Frink 9 by 12.
Yeah.
And yeah,
This is all me. This is more recent. This is after I was working on the Simpsons comics, which happened much later in my so-called career. And I love Professor Frink because it's just an excuse to do all kinds of EC, like, mad science.
of
So,
course.
and every time I had Frink, I did one comic story featuring Frink, and in it, I think Bart used some kind of ray gun or invention to blow up Maggie, the baby, into a giant, like Godzilla-sized Maggie, and she was walking around stomping on buildings and things. But it starts out in Frank's lab, and I had all these failed experiments or experiments in progress in the background, and each and every one of them was, he was making himself into a monster of some kind. He was a spider. He was some floating in a tank with tubes attached to him. They were all in his own image, That somehow amuses me. I don't know what that is, but here he is, whatever. I'm not sure what happened here. This could be a scene out of, say, David Cronenberg's The Fly, where something gets messed up in the transmission, and the fly is in the mix. And anyway, this is sort of this melting, oozing Frink monster of some kind.
Nope, I love it. My favorite ride at Universal is the Simpsons ride, where Maggie gets giant sized.
Oh, she does? I haven't.
Oh yeah,
I haven't seen that. Yeah.
it is. It's worth at least one time through it. But yeah, every time I can get on that ride, I do, because it's just so fun. But very nice. So 9 by 12 on this one, and the next piece, I know we showed on the last show, but we still we lowered the price on this one a bit, and this is I think the only thing page that we have from issue 8. Ron Wilson pencils, and the price on this one is $300. And where are we going to after that, though? Oh, I know.
You do get the Thing in here. It's not a great action page for the Thing, but you get this whole historical thing, and it kind of looks like Orson Welles as whatever historical figure. I can't read the fine print there, but
yeah, it's small on my screen as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Thing is hanging
and
out.
Alicia, that's his girlfriend, Alicia, in there. She's having probably an operation on her vision, I imagine. As you recall, Alicia was blind, and it's always a strange thing, I mean, it's straight out of a 1940s movie, only a blind woman could fall in love with the Thing. Right? Stanley.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but it worked. That's why Marvel was so popular, because the stories kind of came after the I don't know. I mean, Marvel was so much into the romance stuff and different storylines that it just worked to roll that kind of drama into their comics. All right. Well, speaking of Marvel, we got a couple Marvel pages coming up next year. So this first one is from Marvel Comics Presents issue 81 from an Ant-Man story. It's page 21, and that's lot 11, priced at $350, and pencils by James Fry. Had you worked with James before that?
If I'm not mistaken, we only worked on this one story together. And
okay.
Marvel Comics Presents, it was a short story in an anthology. If I'm getting it right.
Oh yeah, there was always like 3 stories in each book.
Yeah, and you can see here he's trying, not trying. Part of his style is to work without outlines as much as possible. He would cut the little shadow shapes and chisel them in there. You can really see that in the little narrow panel of Ant-Man in sort of semi-silhouette. But yeah, just kind of a nice graphic approach to some of the stuff. And there's a little cartooniness in some of the work, like I don't know if that's a child. I better put my glasses on. I'm trying to read the screen. Yeah, she does look like a younger girl there. She
in the first panel.
Sitting in front of the TV, and then you see her close up in the third panel. Yeah, I like that panel. I don't know if that's like a reporter out there in the rain. That's really nice. But even the little shadows, like in the panel with I guess that's in the second tier on the right, where it's a close up of Ant-Man with the way he cuts the shadows across them. It's just really nice use of black. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, this next one really leans into that, I think, lot 12,
here you
or
go.
those first four panels. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of sort of geometric chiseling and hard edges and solid blacks. Very distinctive style. Yeah, he's still around. I mean, we're friends on Facebook, James and I. And
Oh, hey, Tyler. Yeah, this was I like this one a lot. And like you were saying, kind of the chiselly feel throughout
mhm.
it. I thought it was great, and I love that last panel. That's why I decided just to focus on it. I mean, I know it's not like a lot of action, but I just love the way it's drawn.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think style is a lot of what he does. It just has a certain feel to it. It was fun to ink because I'm like, I don't draw anything like this. And like, oh, okay, I'm going to try to put these giant feathering shapes and things in here. It was really fun. I'm glad someone's picking it up. That's great.
Nope. Tyler has a great calf gallery. He collects some of the most eclectic artwork on Comic Art Fans. So thank you very much, Tyler. Now, we're going to, okay, I think we're actually going to go into some of the DC work here. Let me get to lot 13. So you did some stories with Steve Mannion.
Yeah.
And I actually chose to just put them all, you'd sent me, I think, 6 scans. So I thought, well, let's put them all out there so people can at least, get a idea of the work that you did with them. And I think I put these in, it's 4 pages sequential from Detective 753. So lot 13 is page 16 from that issue of Detective Comics. And had you worked with Mannion before this?
This might have been the first time. We did 2 stories at DC, as I recall. He actually drew a story I wrote, a backup for
Oh, wow.
Fear Agent at Dark Horse. And Steve's, if you know his work, it's sort of crazy, wild. There's always Nazis and dinosaurs, and this beautifully drawn and kind of inspired by like Frazetta and some of the EC artists, I think. But his own stuff is just over the top, imaginative, and energetic. And I love that cartoony thing. And these stories, I'm not sure if that's the case with this one, but I think they're told from the perspective of somebody in Arkham Asylum. So they're looking for this mad, crazy kind of style, or they called out for that in the artist.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
it's all
I love
subjective.
Steve's work. Just so you know, Hilary, I've always admired his work. He's a great, his pencil only work is beautiful. When he inks himself, it's beautiful. I mean, he's just got a very unique style, and I can see why, you guys would work really well together. I mean, this page is fantastic, and I saw, and Will, thank you for claiming this one. We appreciate that.
All
Uh,
right. Somebody
so
with
this,
good taste.
I think Steve's pretty, the people who love his work, just can't get enough of it. I mean, here, this is the next page from that. This is page 17.
I mean,
Uh,
just look at that crazy. See, this story is full of multiple Batmen. And I mean, there's also this whole Perils of Pauline thing with this, I forget the name of the character, the woman she's on a slab. There is
or actually
someone's already
14.
claimed this one. The
Well,
early,
Will said claim 17. I think he meant 14, but we'll wait till he confirms that.
okay. Maybe he's a mind reader and he's moving ahead. But it just it's like she's on a slab, strapped to a slab, and the giant guillotine or whatever, not the guillotine, what do you call it, the giant blade is swinging above her, and and the hero has to come in and rescue her in time. It's got this really fun, crazy energy in it, but she's drawn in this exaggerated cartoony style. And the Batmen are from everything from tiny little like Mickey Mouse Batman to this giant, monstrously muscled guy you see on this page.
Well, this is the way they draw absolute Batman today. Tiny head,
Is that right?
body. Oh, totally. That's why I was I was waiting for somebody to mention it in the chat, since we got it on the other one. But yeah, no, it's that's exactly how they draw.
I didn't know that. I mean, because to me, this stuff started happening in terms of the sort of steroidal anatomy started happening around the Image era, right? Where like Pitt and Dale Keown would draw the Hulk or Pitt with these just giant torsos and everything, which are really fun to parody. But it's really weird when the thing you're parodying, like in the 1950s, when they did Superman, they would have drawn him with tiny little legs and a really big torso, and now that's being done for real in the
Oh
in the
yeah.
so-called serious books. Yeah. But anyway, Steve, just ton of talent and ton of fun. The villain, the guy in the hat in the upper right hand panel of this page is just beautifully drawn. He's sort of he's got his hands together like an old serial villain. He's going yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, again, perfect for Steve and you to work on. And next page. So this was page. We did 16, 17, and now here's page 18 from this as well. And again, I mean, just the amount of detail that Steve's putting in here is it's just wonderful to see all the the machinery. So in the second panel, the kind of crazy way he's drawn that tower in the first panel. I mean, all of that. And Steve always he's just he puts a lot of texture in his pieces, whether it's the musculature in a character or the things in the background. So there's a lot of stuff here that you've got to like you said, you stay true to the penciler so much that you really have to kind of follow along with what he's doing there. But this is fun. This is really fun.
And that second panel in this laboratory, the machinery in that panel was so different. It was similar to a lot of things I've seen. It has that mad scientist lab stuff that they've been doing since the Universal horror movies from the 30s. But Steve, some of that stuff reminds me of like Robbie the Robot, like the 1950s kind of machinery.
Oh yeah.
And I've actually used this. I've used this, and he's inspired me. You might even see it in that Professor Frink piece from earlier. But I've said, oh, I'm going to use some of these ideas here. They're just too cool to not pick up on. So yeah, if someone just claimed that, thank you, Brent.
Brent was just ahead of Will in claiming this one. So thank you, Brent.
And by the way, if you guys want to do this, since I have the art here, if anyone would like me to personalize the page to them, let Bill know, and I will do so. Okay, right, I'll sign the page with your name to you, whatever you prefer.
I would say definitely the one thing that, because the scan I don't think shows it as being signed at all. So we'll want to make sure before you put anything in the mail that all the pages that you ship
I'll sign each and every page. But in terms of personalizing, some people don't want that, some do. So
yeah, we have the opportunity.
Yeah, let Bill know.
All right. Well, thank you, Brent, for that one. So we have one more page from this title. Let's see. So lot 16 is page 19 from that.
More crazy action here. I love the guy running up the crazy staircase in the background, and all the Batmen. There's like several in that panel, and you can see the giant machine with like a death ray pointed at the woman who's strapped to the slab or the table in the middle background. It's just, I don't know. It's just so much fun. I wish there were more comics that were drawn like this without the excuse that it was from the perspective of the madhouse,
Right.
All right.
Yes, and Corey came in just ahead of Will on this one, so thank you, Corey. Corey says, I knew I shouldn't have watched today. Whenever you get something like this, Corey, it's it's a good reason that you watch today.
There aren't many Batman pages out there like this. Trust me. This is a cool page.
All right. Well,
I don't know if you'd want to try walking in the perspectives on these panels, but that's intentional.
Well, the layouts are just so much fun because when you first see it, you feel like it's almost like a little bit bigger than a half splash, but then you realize that there really is 2 inset panels in that first large panel, right? And it's just it's Mannion's approach to storytelling that makes it fun. I mean, even the last 2 panels with the figure being in the panel but outside the panel, really. I mean, these are things that kind of challenge us, visually as readers. And I always find that those, the artwork that makes me kind of do a double take and study it a little bit more are the pieces that I tend to like the most.
Well, I got to say, I'm a little sad that all these pages are going because I love having them around. They're just so cool. And I'm looking at this page now. I have it right here if you want to look.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and hide the slide here and we can take a look at it. There we go.
I'm just, to actually see all of the detail in here, it's just so cool. I mean, where the two guys are squaring off and just smashing their heads against each other. I don't know.
It's
It's just fun. I
beautiful.
like comics that are fun, and these are really fun. So
Nope, I'm with you there. So congrats to Corey, Will, and Brent for getting those. Now we do have two other Mannion pages though. So let's see. Lot 17 was from what was it? It was Batman Gothic Knights, right? So this
yeah,
is actually a true, well, it's bigger than Half Splash, I guess, but this is $500. It's from issue 37, page 6 from that book. Lots of tentacles and crazy stuff going on in this one. You even get a cauldron as well, right?
and I guess it's the full title is Batman Gothic Knights Black and White. So this was
Black and white, that's right.
printed in black and white too. Okay,
I
yeah.
didn't have enough room
No,
to
that's
put it
okay.
all in there.
I'm looking for those pages. Oh, I don't have them with the detective pages, but they're over here somewhere. Yeah. Okay. It might be a backup story in that book, perhaps. But I don't have the. Well, while you got it up for a minute, I'll take a look and see if I can find it. Or you might have those from. Do you think you have those pages?
I have, yeah, you sent me really detailed scans on these, so
You don't actually have the art for these yet.
I do not have the art in
Okay.
hand. No, these are the ones, yeah, that definitely I did not get.
Okay.
But
Well, then
it was one of the ones that you sent me scans of yesterday, so I know you. It's good. Maybe it's sitting on the scanner right now.
that could be. Not the most organized artist in the world. No, they're somewhere, but I'm not going to spend all my time here. So.
No problem. And I should let everybody know too that if you claim anything today, I'm happy to email the scans over because Hilary did do a really great job on giving me some good scans. So save you the trouble of having to scan the art yourself. I'm happy to email those to any.
And if you have found yourself frustrated because someone's beating you out here, don't forget to refresh the page.
Yeah, that is true. Remember, hit that live button in the lower left-hand corner because YouTube can buffer from time to time, and it does put you behind other people in the stream, in the chat. So we'll go ahead and take a look at lot 18. This is the last one from Mr. Mannion and you from Batman Gothic Knights, Black and White, issue 37, page 7. Yeah, that's. I mean, Steve just draws characters so fun. I mean, that's such a misshapen face, but it's awesome.
Honestly, and I think that is Batman in the story. So whether it's one of the many Batmen, I can't remember this story compared. I forget what's going on here versus the other one, but yeah, it's just like you have this old wizened whatever guy here. God, I wish I remember the story. But it's just crazy. And the guy holding the knife, the perspective of that panel with the knife in the foreground, that's really cool. That's like the third panel, I guess.
Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I loved inking like the hair in the panel that you highlighted, just inking that hair on his forehead and sort of picking away at it. That's me trying to do, I mean, it's in Steve's pencils, where you have the cast shadow from the hair on the forehead and the cast shadow on the mustache under the nose. That's me trying to do a little bit of what I would think Wrightson would do there. I mean, just trying to capture that certain touch of that the line work there with the brush.
Well, it's gorgeous.
It's pretty crazy stuff, though.
Rick Welch says crazy pupil.
Yeah, I'm glad there are Mannion fans out there. I'm glad. Yeah.
All right. Well, 18 is still available. And hey, Alex Garcia, good to see you. Alex Garcia is going to be doing an interview with us here on the channel in early February, everybody. So you've gotten to see a lot of Alex is an illustrator in his own right. He's done a lot of T-shirts designs for us that we've ended up posting on our TeePublic store. Just fun, creative images that have made things a lot more enjoyable here on the CAF Plus channel. But StandUpRecords.com mentions very Wrightson Ingalls-esque. So yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Ingalls is yeah. I could see that here. Yeah, that the old guy with the mustache and beard. Yeah, definitely looks like Ingalls.
All right, so we're moving on. Lot 19, a little bit of a departure here. So this is a Flint Henry Grimjack page from issue 77, page 15, 11 by 17. And yeah, I had to go. There were a couple panels. Yeah, I kind of like the last panel on this one, but I had to zoom in on that face here because it's just gnarly. It's done so
That's
well.
yeah. I mean,
Everything when you think of Grimjack, this is it's faces and grimacing faces like this that make you
and you can
remember who
almost
they are.
see the rat in the lower right corner of that panel you've highlighted. Uh,
Yes.
what Flint would do, I mean, besides just drawing, these wild panels, angles, and perspectives, he similar. I think there's a similar energy to Steve. In fact, Steve Mannion. But what he would do is like detail of his own. There would be maybe in this story. I remember there being piles of garbage and detritus of whatever kind. Well, just drew the craziest stuff in there. It's like really detailed little things. This story also has a really crazy monster in that lower left panel where he's got like giant tentacles or something, but he's like pulling. I don't know if he's pulling somebody's like a dead guy's face apart in that panel. I swear to God, I'm looking at it on the screen and I'm going. Even I can't remember what's going on in there, but it looks really wild. Um, Here,
Yeah, it
oh,
was so weird. I didn't want to focus in on the on the lower
he's
left panel.
do you want me to tell you what's going on? I have the. If you wanted to show people, I could hold up the page. But if you'd rather not offend
Man,
anyone,
pretty much like ripped his face off, I think, and
I think he's yeah. I think he's
and
he's
spit on it.
he's spitting in. This is a corpse of some kind. He's got his finger in his mouth, and he's spitting into one of the eye sockets.
Yeah.
So this
I
is
think
really
it's
EC inspired.
Oh yeah. No, when you think of Grimjack, this is exactly the kind of story you expect. A facelift, says Rick Welch. That's true. Oh man. All right. Well, this is lot 19. Let's see. What do we got for lot 20? Because I know this was the only Grimjack page we had. Oh yeah. Well, this is the only card art page we actually have too. So this was pencils by Doug Rice. The
Mhm.
character Shatterax, which I'm not familiar with. I know they're a villain, and I know they're part of a team that I can't remember now. I guess or Star Force or something like that. But this is from the Versus System card set. It's on 11 by 11 and a half. And did you do a lot of these, Hillary, or is this like a one and done type thing? Because I don't remember seeing your name
On the
on
card set,
it before. Yeah.
I remember there was a Marvel card set, and I'm assuming it's all the same. I did the thing. I did a card with the thing at some kind of carnival. I did maybe two or three. I doubt I did more than that. I can't remember who all the characters were, but I did a few. I mean, just somebody said, "Do you want to do these?" And I had the job, and that was it. I never got another one. I don't even know that I have the cards.
Well, I had to dig
Comics.
around. I did find it. I found it on
Well,
eBay.
I see that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think one of the reasons I probably asked them if I could bring Doug in because this one was like a science fiction thing, and I thought Doug is the artist behind Dynamo Joe at First Comics, and he really has a great design sense, and
Mhm.
it really paid off because if you look at the perspective here of that figure, all just foreshortened with the buildings and everything. Um, I don't know that I would have pulled that off. So I think Doug was a good choice, whether it was my idea or not. Yeah.
Well, the
So
buildings are very narrow and sci-fi inspired. I love it.
yeah, I mean, Doug's very much influenced by design. A great designer like Jim Steranko is a favorite artist, but also he really loves Japanese comics and manga and anime. So very much inspired by that styles in Japan as well.
Awesome. Well, this one is $500, and again, lot number 20, 11 by 11 and a half. And you don't get the card with this one. Just letting you know, but you can buy them on eBay if you do end up picking it up.
You could probably find one, but yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking, looking at the Flint Henry page and even the Steve Mannion pages, color actually helps. Like this page, just drawing anyway. It's designed in a way that you can tell what's going on. It's very clear. But some of the pages with all the crazy details, it's like color really does help. it can kind of bring things together for the eye, clarify a little bit.
I would agree. Hey, you can't hear that chicken in the background, can you?
I,
I have chickens in my yard, and they're making a whole lot of noise just
I
outside
did
my
hear
door.
something at some point, and I didn't know what I mean. I even heard sometimes you
All
get
right. Well, I
an echo.
apologize if it's because I just texted my daughter, told her to go out there and feed the chickens because they just will not leave my door. It's starting to
I think
bother
it's
me.
the first time there were chickens on a Zoom I've been on. So, but no,
Oh
it's not.
man.
It's not
All
bothering.
right, good.
It's
Well,
not.
so let me see. We'll move on to 21. Now, I know that the next two pieces we did have on the last show, they are from Power Pack, and we reduced the prices on these, and we do have a third Power Pack page as well. So this is from John Bogdanov, and it's from issue 31. We dropped the price on this one to 375. It's page 15 from that. Get some of the kids in there battling. I don't recall the character that is.
Well, so they're fighting. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what these guys were.
I
There was
remember that. Yeah, I read it the last time, and I didn't go back to it this time.
I forget.
But fun piece for sure.
Well, it's beautiful. I mean, I think when we talked about this last time, I'll talk about it again. Those two panels with the large guy holding up the refrigerator, and you see him from below, and then the next panel you see him from above. Just beautiful drawing and perspective. And John would really put in the shadows and the lighting, and I was just trying not to screw it up as best I could. Really, really trying. I just you see a beautiful drawing in pencil, and all you want to do is just capture it in the inks. But you can even tell the way the figures are moving. There's a real nice limber cartooniness to the way he does anatomy and action, and
Hmm.
this group there's two groups of kids here. There's the Power Pack, the family of the four Power children, but then there's these other guys that are kind of like, I don't know if they're called trash or something like that. But it was like them getting into the really kind of gritty urban milieu. The villain was called the Garbage Man, and these guys seemed like the bad guys, but by the end of the storyline, I think they were all sort of parting as at least in a truce or something. But I do believe like there were drugs involved in this storyline too. When there's maybe the characters were dealing drugs for the bad guy, something like that, where the kids who lived a pretty I don't know, middle class is the right word, but it's sort of a protected life. Were exposed to some darker elements in New York. Anyway, that's enough about what I know about the storyline. But John is always fun to ink. I loved inking John Bogdanov's work. Yeah, he's a real talented guy.
Nope, I completely agree. And here's another page by John, and this is that Mobius inspired piece. That's it's done. Well, it's turned 90 degrees, right? This was from that whole issue where once they were in the land, the whole book turned to the side. So this is 375. It's from issue 47, page 16, 11 by 17.
Yeah, the cool thing about this story there were homages to a number of artists and strips, because there's Little Nemo. There's a whole Little Nemo thing where these crazy buildings turned on the side. The kids are walking, on the side of buildings and climbing over them as Little Nemo did back in the comic strip, Little Nemo in Slumberland. And then there's this sequence with Mobius and these sort of, like Arzak would fly on this pterodactyl-like pigeon-like fat-bellied bird. And it just, and so his style changed here, and he went to this line art style to mimic Mobius's pen style. Yeah, it is a cool thing to have a page turned on its side, and yeah, really neat.
Yeah,
The Power Pack was this. I mean, it was a case where the book just never really sold as well as you name it, the X-Men certainly, and books like that. But it just had a real charm to it. And there are fans. I mean, there are people. There's a Power Pack podcast out there.
I have heard about that. There is a sizable fan group from Power Pack days. No, I agree. So we have lot 23 as well. This is not John, it's Terry Schumacher, and this is from Power Pack 28. And you get looks like you have little bit of zip there. You get it looks like, what is this?
This is the
She-Hulk,
Fantastic Four. I mean, it's
Hulk is actually eating
She-Hulk was a
like a
member, I
wrap
guess,
or
at the
something
time.
in there. I didn't
Yeah.
even notice that before. I thought she was just making a fist.
No, she's eating something. Yeah. Didn't she have to eat some kind of, I don't know, was that a thing with the She-Hulk? She's always eating. She's got a high metabolism or something. Anyway, but you can see the white zip in the back where
Yeah,
this is all indicated. There'd be a little note on the side of the page, and maybe it's still there in the pencils. But you know, Terry Schumacher in this case would say, "Hey, put some white zip on the screens here," and that was, I guess, because it would be a black on black and of space with the black foreground on all the costumes. But he also loved zip tone, and there's a page which we didn't put in the sale, but I showed to you, Bill, where
yeah,
there
no, I
were
remember.
two different overlays where he was doing two different color holds on the same page. So there's just tracing paper laid over the page, and it was pretty wacky having to separate all that stuff out and make sure I was doing it right and in registration and send it back, and hopefully it'll print. But it
That
does
was
make it, yeah, it's kind of heck on the originals because you have multi-layered originals. Yeah.
exactly, but that was that was the era where you had to do it like that, and everything gets done digitally now.
Yeah.
You don't have to mess around in that same way. But yeah, I
But
mean,
as you can see here, Terry had this really he sort of linear style. He used the lines a lot, and it's kind of designy in certain ways, but then it has this real elegant line work. I mean, that some of the detail on the explosion even is just really fine line, and I was trying to capture that, or the mouth of the alien, in that second tier where he's opening his mouth and yelling. You just trying to capture what he was doing in the pencils as best I could. I didn't ink a lot of Terry. In fact, I have, maybe someday we'll sell it because I tried to give them back to Terry. I started on, I think it's X Factor, but pages. I had a story, and then they stopped the story for some reason. It never came out, and so I have like 4 or 5 pages unfinished of Terry's pencils on X Factor, and they're just sitting here. They were never published. And I wrote Terry and said, "Terry, do you want these pages back?" And he just never got back to me. So
well, yeah, we can take a look at them sometime.
maybe there's an audience for unfinished Marvel pages. Yeah.
No, people pick up unpublished pieces all the time. I mean, interiors are a little less rare than like an unpublished cover, that sort of thing. But yeah, you never know. So let's see. We were moving into a different segment here with lot 24, though. We're moving into some Rick Veitch pieces. This is, I'm trying to remember the whole title on this one. It was what was
It's
it?
Gray
Indigo
Shirt. Gray Shirt
Gray
is the
Shirt.
character who was originally in Tomorrow Stories, but I think this was a series of, maybe it was a graphic novel, but it was a series of only Gray Shirt stories called Gray Shirt Indigo Sunset.
Got it.
Yeah, yeah. And I can't remember if there were 2 stories going on at the same time in this story, 2 narratives. You can see there's like a wider divider, like a white border in the middle of the page dividing it in half. It might have been 2 narratives that met at the end or something. I honestly can't remember now, but
Well, it was a little. These were done what, about 20 years ago?
yeah, when ABC Comics was going, with Tom
Even
Strong.
more than
Yeah, so whenever that was,
early
again,
2000s.
time. I'm an artist. I sit here. It's always today. I don't know.
All right. So this is lot 24. Then lot 25 is another Tomorrow Stories piece, and
This is
this
also
one's,
probably Gray Shirt. Yeah.
yeah, it's Great Shirt as well. And love this one. Lots of textures on this one. I wanted to zoom in on the eyes in the last panel, but I didn't. I kind of like those first 2 panels with just with the wall and the texture there, and I thought that was a
Mhm.
really nice page.
Yeah, and there's a paste up missing, and I forget what it was, and I don't no idea where it is at this point. But on that next to last panel, there's some kind of sign posted, and I can't, for the life of me, I can't remember what was on there. But you can see even in that first panel, there's something probably that was pasted up
That
there.
it's pointing at, right?
Yeah, this could have been a case where the office was going to put it in, so it was done at the office, and I never, because I don't remember seeing any glue on the page. So this could have
Right.
been the kind of thing where they were going to add something. It sometimes what they did is they were referring to something else in the story, so they're going to scan something that is on a different page, and then they paste it in. In any case, I don't recall. But when things fall off pages, I usually put them in an envelope. So I sometimes have little envelopes, and then like these are Power Pack word balloons that were glued onto the page, and they've fallen off. And then when I'm selling art, I have to go through and find all where all the balloons are. But in this case, I don't think I have the paste ups. So,
Well,
but
Marcus
by
notes this
Alan
is
Moore. In case you don't know, these pages are right. They're all they're scripted by Alan Moore.
I should have put that on the slide as well. Yes, Alan Moore
I
written.
should make a point of that. Yeah, some people seem to have be fans of Alan Moore. So
there are a few out there.
A marginally successful writer, had a slight impact on the comics business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this is 25, lot 25, lot 26, a little racy, I guess, in its own way. This is what is this? It's Cobweb, and this is
So
from
yeah, I think the two stories connected here, the gray shirt story and the Cobweb story, kind of, they're two of the rotating features in Tomorrow Stories, and in this case, the two stories interlocked, and I guess the characters interlocked in this particular. Okay, so
they did.
Well, here you go, Alan Moore. I guess doing a little romance or perhaps sex scene, if we can use that term.
Yeah, I want to see the script that Alan sent you for this.
Oh, well, I did save all that stuff, so I got it somewhere. You mean you want to know what his descriptions are for the various panels?
Yeah, well, I got it. Well, yeah, of course. You'd want to see, it'd be fun to see, how Alan kind of laid these out.
Since I didn't pencil it, I don't have the script for this one. I just got the pages from Rick, but Rick would have the script, and yeah, Alan would be describing. In this panel, Cobweb climbs up on top of Great Tree, suggestfully straddles him.
Yes, hands clasped.
Exactly. Right. Now, cut to several sweaty moments later.
Yes, Rick Boltz even said Silk Spectre-esque. Did more use the word interlocked? Yeah, hard to say, but congrats to Sam for picking this one up. This is great. The Cobweb pages were always really nice. I think you had one page in the last sale that we did, and they're just fun. I mean, they're I've always enjoyed Rick's pencils, and his artwork is fun, and your inks work really well with them. But these are great claim, says Corey. Definitely.
All right, thank you, Corey, or thank you, everybody.
Now, I think I kind of went out of order. I don't know why I did that. It's probably because I just wasn't thinking. But one other page from the last sale that we had that didn't sell, because there is actually a couple more Alan Moore pieces in here that we have, but I threw this one in the middle for some reason. I tried keeping everything in order, but I didn't. So let's see. With lot 27 was that Silvestri Commando page that we had on the last one, that end page with Schwarzenegger and whatnot. It was a mini comic.
So I'll give you the background real quick. There was the Commando movie that starred Arnold Schwarzenegger, and this is the final page, maybe. Yes, I think it's the final page. So a local toy company did a Commando toy, a little figure of Arnold, and they just included a comic book insert. So my friend Doug Rice and I went and saw the movie, and we had to write like a 6-page adaptation of the movie. And I got to say, it wasn't that difficult, because you just kept the punchlines, I'll be back, or he's holding the guy over the cliff, I let him go, that sort of thing. And kept those moments in there. And really, most of it's fighting. So you just, kind of cut out some of the bomb blasts and the machine gun fight, and had all the story points. And it was pretty, neatly told in the 6 pages or so. Anyway, Doug did the layouts wonderfully, and Mark penciled over Doug's layouts, and I then did the inks. And you can see I did more of a pen style here. Perhaps because they were drawn a little smaller than usual, it seemed to make sense to use a finer point. But
Mhm.
so there you go. I can't remember if Willie. I don't think that's Willie Schubert. I can't remember. Maybe it was Willie Schubert. Anyways, he might have been the letterer. I think Linda Lessman colored it. And one of the funny things about this comic is that it was being colored and they shipped it to Hong Kong, I believe. So Linda Lessman did the coloring. She does a photocopy and then watercolor over the photocopy and calls out the colors. So she has little numbers and she's indicating what colors and effects and things and putting there's pencil lines and things. And in the communication between the toy company and where this was printed in Hong Kong or in China, they just did photos. They were supposed to do color separations, and instead they just copied and printed from her color guide. So the color notes are in there. Remember
Yeah,
when I said I'd kill you last? I lied. So a lot of people remember the lines from the movies. Yes. Okay, Chuck.
definitely.
Yeah. Those were wacky days. You get this thing, and then I could bring in. I knew Mark. Mark actually worked in my apartment. He used my living room as a studio for a while, and when he was living in Chicago, and Doug lived here, and we were all pretty close to each other up north in Chicago. It was kind of fun, just calling in a team of friends and putting a little comic together. I was sort of, ramrodding the whole thing, and yet I didn't draw it. I just did the inking. So
Very cool. We have 4 more pieces to look at.
okay.
We're going back to some ABC and Alan Moore here. So this is from issue 9 of
Tomorrow's.
yes, exactly. Page 4, Splash Brannigan, and I love this. I mean, you've included 2 battle pages here between them here, and it's just so fun. You look at this and it makes me think of Spy versus Spy. It makes me think of it's so fun, and
Well,
the panel layout works so well with it too.
I mean, Splash. This story, I think it's called "The Splash of Two Worlds," which is a reference to the Flash of Two Worlds, a
Hmm.
Silver Age Flash story at DC. And in the splash page, which we probably sold in the previous auction, does
Yes.
it's a direct reference to that old Carmen Infantino Splash. Anyway, this story features Splash fighting his sort of negative counterpart. He's all black ink, and his counterpart is all white, and then they get mixed up together. So now they're striped, and then they're zebras, and then they're whatever. But the battle is just crazy because they're 2 liquid characters, and do we have 2 pages in the sale
Yeah,
here?
we do. It's
Okay.
consecutive. This is page
Well,
4, and then page 5 will be the next one.
okay. So this is somewhere in the middle of this battle here, but yeah, they crash into each other, and it's just one big sploosh. And yeah, let me see. Get my glasses on. Yeah, and Alan even has the lettering. I mean, Todd Klein did the lettering, but even the lettering is striped or the negative positive. And I love that. My favorite thing here is those last 3 panels where they're fighting and they literally tear each other in half and then piece each other back together because they're half and half stuck together, and then they tear their own half off of the other Splash and put themselves back together, and they're kind of like holding their crotches in the last panel because of course they were split down the middle. I don't know, that cracked me up as an artist, I gotta say. I never thought I'd draw something where 2 guys were trying to piece themselves back together like that. Yeah, it was very, very entertaining.
Well, here, I'll show the next panel too. So that was 28, and then lot 29 is page 5 from that same story where I think they end up deciding that they just can't keep the battle going because nobody's going to win this one because they're just too evenly matched.
Yeah, but first they say, well, let's not fight on the street like this. We're going to hurt someone. So they go fight in the sewer, and then they're in the plumbing. They're waves, they're clouds, and then they're in some plumbing in that sort of last tier, and then they bubbling up in somebody's sink. And then at the end, they like, yeah, we can't. Yeah, we're basically, yeah, it's like positive fighting negative. It's a draw. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, they're rain clouds, then they're in the sewer pipes, they're in the sink.
Yes. Yeah.
In a classic 9-panel layout that I'm sure Alan Moore was very pleased to see you.
Well, it was in the script, right?
It was in the script. You had
it was like, well, Hilary, what we're doing here is it's a splash page. Yes, it is, Rick. Every page with Splash is a splash page.
Oh,
but yeah, he's like, what we're doing here is a 9-panel, 3 panels per tier, and then the first panel, yeah, he'd always sort of talk to you like that. But he saw this stuff in his head before he wrote it.
Oh yeah, no, there's a few scripts that are out there. I think there might even be one on Gaff where he thumbnails some things every now and again, and he's very, very detail oriented in his scripts. Corey asked, do you still have the notes? Maybe somewhere, right, Hilary?
Well, for this, I have scripts. Yeah, I mean, all the Splash stuff. In fact, at one point, there was some symposium on Alan Moore in South America. I can't remember what country, but I was contacted by someone saying, we would like to, if you have them, we would like to feature a scripts. And I mentioned, well, a lot of these are just faxes, which is a lot of the scripts would come in 1 page at a time via fax, or photocopies. And they said, that's okay, we'd like to see them. So I gave them to a diplomatic courier at the local embassy here in Chicago. And They were sent down, and they were, I wasn't down there, I didn't see it. And then they were sent back to me some months later. But somebody was studying Alan Moore's work to a great extent down there. Yeah, it was pretty wild. I don't think they're doing any symposiums on, Hilary Barta maple syrup.
No, but they should someday. Maybe, you never know. All right. Well, we have 2 more lots to look at, and
maybe a taste testing, not a symposium.
That's right. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Lot 30 is next, and so the last 2 are from Plastic Man. This first one is page 2 from issue 3.
You're saving the best for last.
I did. I figured I'd put the title page last on this one, but obviously there aren't a lot of the Plastic Man pieces out there, but this again is issue 3, page 2, and you've held on to these for a while, Hilary.
Well, I mean, when I said saving the best for last, I mean Splash Brannigan and Plastic
Man.
Man.
It's okay. Yeah. Well, of course, I got to end with a bang here on that.
They're kind of like they're my babies, I mean, I didn't co-create Plastic Man like I did Splash, but just I felt like I really wanted to pay homage to Jack Cole, the creator of Plastic Man, and I was really inspired by his work to the extent that I could be. I wanted to get some of that energy and cartooniness in the strip. So I'm really glad that someone's claimed this already, because I love these pages, and we had this ongoing joke with calling Plastic Man the pencil neck geek, because I think I had read somewhere that Cole himself wanted to call Plastic Man, originally he was going to be the India Rubber Man, and someone, perhaps Arnold, the editor at Quality Comics, said, maybe we'll go with something else. How about Plastic Man? But they changed the name or didn't go with that original idea. And so I've always thought, just having people calling him by different names, like the pencil neck geek. Sorry, I don't know why that still makes me laugh.
No, when I read it, I thought it was funny, but it's true. I mean, sometimes editorial makes the right decisions, right, as far as naming characters. So
yeah, and of course, the whole humor here is Woozy. The story is all about Woozy feeling neglected, and so absolutely positively no sidekicks are invited to this event, and so Woozy's like staring into the corner, and you'll see the splash because it starts with Woozy imagining himself as a hero on the splash, and then it leads to this page.
Right, exactly. Let's go ahead and show the last slide, and that's lot 31. So it's the title page.
Yeah, so issue 3. It starts with this. This is similar to that Steve Mannion stuff, right? With the guy, someone on a rack here, he's being stretched, and Woozy's the hero, and
Plastic Man's the sidekick, right?
Plastic Man, that's right. Well, he's in danger, and Woozy's coming to save him. Yeah, and it turns out when you see the page we showed previously, well, it's actually Woozy having a dream, and just he's imagining himself the hero.
Right now, yeah, no, that's fun. Well, that's what was. I went back and read these when we did our first show, and the Plastic Man stories were just great and well written, well drawn. Brent says you can't stretch Plastic Man. Well, I guess you can to a certain degree, or but again, if he's dreaming it, maybe it's all in Woozy's mind.
Well, you can stretch him. Obviously, he stretches himself, but it's I I suppose the joke would be that to some extent, well, you're stretching him, but it really isn't going to hurt him because though with even with the original Plastic Man, in the 40s and stuff. I mean, when he got stretched too much, he would get exhausted and have to kind of pull himself back together, and it would take they would spend a moment with that where he's sort of like often mobs would be attacking him and tearing at him, and he'd have to sort of slink out of there and gather himself, so to speak. I guess literally. Anyway, it's a good gag to have him put on a rack to be stretched.
Without question. Sorry, and I did forget it was Phil Foglio who had done the stories on these. It's
well, actually, Doug Rice, Phil, and I wrote the stories, and then Phil did the final script. So we plotted them together, and
co-plotters.
Yeah, we do basically just sat around trying to make each other laugh and come up with situations gags, and where one person's contribution ended and the other began. I certainly can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
I'm often sitting in rooms with people I work with, and they go, "Oh, I that was my gag," and I'm like, "Oh yeah," because I can't remember.
All right, well that one is still available, but we thanks to everybody who's claimed stuff live. We appreciate that. I can run through the list of the stuff that's still out there just to remind everybody. We'll get these posted, and so everybody who didn't claim anything, will know what's still available. And reminder for those who did, you're going to email sales@comicartfans.com so we can arrange payment and talk about shipping or or white glove hand delivery at OAX in February if that's what you prefer.
If they're in Chicago, I can bring them over. Just let me know.
That's I didn't even think about that because you haven't mailed them to me yet. If somebody is in the Chicago area, I mean your plan. I think you were going to put these in the mail on Monday, so we would need to know before then. But there is the okay. Stand Up wants to know how do payments work. We prefer to get payment using Zelle and Venmo. So that's so we don't have to charge a fee. If we have to go the PayPal route, we do put a fee on those. I think what is it, 4% for US, 5.5% if you're international. And hey, if you can hand deliver cash, we take that too. Whatever works. I'll take a check in the mail. And that's
meet me in the alley. Meet me in the alley with a stack of 20.
Exactly. Well, I got all the artwork in the trunk. I mean, you hand me the money, I'll show you the merchandise.
Exactly.
But yeah.
My art fell off a truck. Yeah.
There are stories about that in comic card collecting, as you probably heard.
A good deal of Marvel art fell off a truck somewhere.
Yes, it's more than it should have, and then a lot of it all, then there's the stuff that just got thrown out. But yeah, the Marvel art, has an interesting history, that's for sure. But here, I'll just run through these, and then so anything that you saw that wasn't claimed, you can always, and you're watching this show on the rewind, you can shoot me an email as well at sales@comicartfans.com. And I'll let you know if something's still available, or if it's sold. We'll be happy to talk through that. So here, I'll just go through these kind of quick. We got the SpongeBob piece for $150. That was lot 1. Lot 2 and 3 are both from Airboy issue 11. Lot 2 is $150, and lot 3 is $175. We also have the 2 pages from The Web by Roger Robinson, his pencils, and Hilary's inks. Lot 4 is $175, as is lot 5. We have the Blue Line Spirit page from issue 25. This is $200. And then we have a page from Star Slayer, Tim Truman pencils on this one with Hilary's inks. Lot 7 was $200. Rick Welch picked up lot 8. Thank you for that, Rick. And then we also have 8.5, Tim Truman and Hilary, and probably a little Mark Nelson in this one as well for $175. Let's see, lot number 9 was the Professor Frink piece for $250. Lot 10 was the Ron Wilson Thing page for $300. Lot 11 was the Ant-Man page from Marvel Comics Presents issue 81, priced at $350. Let's see, 12 through 17 were all claimed. So we can hop over to 18 next. That was the one Steve Mannion Batman Gothic Knights page that did not get claims from, again, lot 18, $500. Then 19 was the Grimjack Flint Henry page, priced at 400. Card art from Marvel Versus System set, lot 20, $500 for this Shatterax piece. Doug Rice pencils on that one. And what else we got? We got the Power Pack page, issue 31 for 375, lot 21. Lot 22 was from issue 47 of Power Pack at 375, and 23 was the Power Pack 28 page, $500. A couple other ones here. 24 was the Rick Veitch Indigo Sunset page for 550, and lot 25 was Tomorrow Stories page, and it was $600 from issue 12. Sam got lot 26, and then we have 27, the Silvestri Commando page at 600. The Splash Brannigan Tomorrow Stories page from issue 9, page 4 was 1,000, and page 5 from that same story, lot 29, was 1,000 as well. And then the final piece was the title page to Plastic Man issue 3, page 1, went for $1,600.
Woozy Winks, superhero.
That's right, man. All right, I raced through that. I made it. I did it. So as always, Hilary, this is fun. They get to hang out, get a little history lesson, because you got to work in comics at an interesting time. One of my favorite eras out there. Number one Marvel fan says, "Fun show today, guys." Yep, exactly. We appreciate all of you hanging out with us on a Saturday afternoon. Now, before we go though, Hilary, I know that you're working on a few things right now, and you might have a few comics beside you. Would you like to go ahead and let us know what you're working on and how we can pick up some of this stuff?
Yeah, well, okay, so that is sort of the catch-22. A lot of the stuff I'm doing now, people don't see because it's overseas. So the last thing that just came out, I just got this in the mail. This is Goof. It is a comic done for kids in the UK. And you can see, though, my style is right there, the EC-inspired sort of science fiction stuff. My criteria for doing work now is, because I'm pretty much semi-retired, but I'm like, if it's going to be fun, if they let me do what I want, I might take it on. And
so is all the work being done traditionally?
Oh yeah, I mean, the only thing that's done on my work that might be done other than traditional working on the boards would be lettering done.
Sure.
Especially if you're working, I'm doing stuff for like German comics now. It has to get translated, so the lettering is going to be done by someone else. But the lettering will be done digitally. If there's color, that might be done digitally, like in that story. But this was a fun project. This just came out. It was done as a Kickstarter. It's Robot Monster Comics in 3D. I've been wanting to do a 3D story for years. Ever since I saw Wally Wood story, EC story, and I got to put on the glasses. A friend of mine had the original comic. You won't be able to see it in 3D, but this comic comes with its, the 3D glasses you get to wear. And here's a little bit of what my pages look like. They're separated, so they're all going to be blurry here. They're separated into two colors that your eyes put together when you put the glasses on. Anyway, and this is the German comic. It's called U Comics, and it's for adults. But I do humorous stuff, and I've done like 3 stories, and I'm working on a 4th now. The theme of the upcoming issue is called it's Creepy Crawlers. So I'm not sure exactly what that's going to look like, but and something most fun. I don't know if we talked about this last time. I did one of the stories in the Illustrated Al, a Weird Al anthology, where you illustrate his lyrics to his songs. And
I think you mentioned that you were working on that when we talked in the summer.
I did Dare to Be Stupid, which just jumped out at me when I saw the lyrics. Stupid was a comic I did, and stupid is also, a lot of people have told me my work is stupid. So it seemed to be a natural fit for me. But in any case, that was a fun thing. And so that's a lot what I'm doing now. These short stories, often overseas. And a lot of people here just will never see them. They're not distributed over here. You'd have to write the publishers over there. But they are available. Like, I know Goof it's for younger readers, and there's pretty steep postage getting them to Europe. But Mark Jackson, who publishes it and is a cartoonist himself, he will be happy to send you a copy of that. I'm sure the U-Comic stuff is available somewhere. That's U-Comics with an X. And the Robot Monster was a Kickstarter, but there's such a nice response to it. I think they might be trying to figure out on reprinting it and getting it distributed somehow, because the only people that'll ever see it now are either people that'll see me at a convention and I have a few extra copies, or people that were part of the actual Kickstarter. So,
right. Well, it's
anyway,
cool. You got to check something off your creative bucket list, right? That you got to
very much so. And I mean, it's just in the fact that it was tied into I mean, people love Robot Monster, but it is a terrible movie. But that's what kind of way they love it. But it really is a 1950s thing, literally. So I really do feel connected to that era that influenced me so much. So yeah. So thanks for that. Allowing me to plug some projects that no one will ever see.
Well, we have one question before we sign off. Standuprecords.com wanted to know if you'll be making more copies of your sketchbook.
I did one. I did a Barta Arta thing, and I was doing it. I think that was like I don't know if that was right before COVID. I thought about doing it again because I did a lot of art during COVID when I wasn't getting out and doing other things. I don't know if that'll happen or not, or when, but it might happen. What I'd like to do someday is collect all these short stories, because the other criteria I have for doing work now is that the rights will revert back to me. So someday I'll take all these short stories from all these diverse comics and publishers, and I'll just package them together, and maybe that'll be a Kickstarter. I don't know, but when I get enough of them, or I feel like it's time to do that. And I am working on a comic right now. I'm working with a writer, and hopefully we'll get that launched. But it won't happen soon because there'll be some startup time there. I'm still working on stories and things, but
all right.
I still think I got a project or two in me, a bigger project or two in me. So
you're still kicking. There's no reason why you can't get, even if you're retired, that's you don't.
Tired from taking on the professional work, I guess, is what. Yeah, and I'm not retired from life or drawing or writing.
Of course.
Right, but I mean,
so is the Weird Al comic out there that people could pick up? I mean, is that something that's still floating around?
Sorry,
I saw Marcus ask how much for the Weird Al comic.
The Weird Al is the publisher. Sorry for me not remembering publishers. No, that's available from, I believe, is it Abrams? Let me see. Okay, here we go. Well, I'm not seeing the name here, but if you just Google the Illustrated Al, you'll see it. And if you can track it back to the publisher. Okay, Z2 is the publisher. Sorry. There, I see it now. God,
Z2.
That was a little embarrassing. I'm sure if they were watching at Z2, it's like, man, Hilary.
I'll just edit that segment out so they didn't. I
did it a couple of years ago, so I forgot for a second. I don't know why I was thinking of Abrams. I think I keep getting their emails because I ordered some books through Abrams. Anyway, so Z2, and they do a lot of, if not exclusively, primarily music-related graphic novels and books. Sometimes musicians, songwriters will write graphic novels. Sometimes it'll be like this, where it's adaptations of song titles. But a lot of music-related stuff. Z2 does a lot of music bios. There you go.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody who picked up artwork today. Remember, shoot me an email, sales@comicartfans.com. We'll get everything squared away today. And I've already seen I've gotten several emails in, so thank you, everybody. I'll be replying after I have some dinner, I think. But Hilary, as always, Happy New Year. It's good to get to hang out. And, I look forward to doing one of these with you again in the future. But everybody who hung out with us today on a Saturday afternoon, we appreciate you doing that. And we'll see you again next week.
Happy New Year, Bill. Thank you. Happy New Year, everybody.
All right. Take care, everyone.